Welcome, everybody. It is me, the Cyber Warrior. This is Cyber Warrior Studios, and I know you're all excited for another amazing episode of Security Happy Hour. And we got a big show planned. I got two guests coming on, one brand new, one's been here before, but we got a lot to talk about and a lot to get through. So if you stick with me for about 10 seconds, I promise we'll be right back. And we're back. With me this evening, I have Ron Sharon. Ron, brand new to the show, never been on before. And we got a lot to talk about with you and Ryan Rosado. Before we get started, Ron, how you doing this evening?
I am doing great. Thank you. How are you, David?
I am fantastic. And Ryan, how are you doing? Because it's been a while.
It has been a while. I'm well. Excited to be back.
It's always a pleasure having you on. And so this evening we want to talk about AI, but before we get into that, everybody knows Ryan's backstory if they've been here before. If not, go back and watch the previous episodes where she's been on and we've talked about it. But Ron, why don't you kind of explain to us, how you got into the AI realm, but beyond that, even getting into cybersecurity, kind of what was your start getting into there?
It's a interesting story. I started as an IT person working in a company. At a certain point in time, I've noticed all the security stuff needed to be taken care of. I was, of course, an IT manager. I was the only one, so I managed pretty much myself in the IT infrastructure. I told my boss, hey, somebody needs to take care of all this security stuff, which back then I knew nothing about. Totally 100% networking, Windows kind of guy. And he said, well, you do it. And I said, okay. And that's how my cybersecurity career started, by pure necessity and just thrown in my lap. And I said, okay, this looks interesting. So picked up books, YouTube, and whatever else I could get my hands on, and learned everything that needs to know about cybersecurity. Got some certifications along the way, learned a lot of things. And here we are today. And AI, you asked about AI. Everybody deals with AI today. So AI from cybersecurity perspective, AI from just a person living in the 21st century perspective. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, definitely. And AI has been kind of growing a lot quicker than I think a lot of people envisioned. And so it's intriguing to see where we're going to be getting to. But topic of the conversation today is AI friend or foe. So first things first, Ron, as the brand new person, real short generalization, friend or foe.
It's whatever you make of it. AI is a tool, like a hammer. You can use the hammer to build great and wonderful tables or walls or whatever, or you can use it to, crack mirrors or heads if you want to go there. But it's a tool. It's a simple tool, and it's how you use it.
Derek, did I not say that same thing to you earlier when we talked? I've been following all the AI ethics, and they've been talking about, like, for some reason it seems to be universal. Everyone's talking about a hammer, probably to really not
a screwdriver, a hammer.
Yeah, like they say, well, you wouldn't put guardrails on the hammer. Well, I guess Derek, you can ask me where I fall down.
I mean, we just found out it's on the same wavelength as Ron.
Yeah, I think the question isn't, is AI good or bad? Because AI is just software and data. It's the people using it. So, sorry, I'm just laughing. I guess you've seen the same thing. I don't think I realized how universal this hammer.
The hammer analogy is. I've never heard you talk in this before on this subject, and this is something I've been using in other podcasts. It's just a hammer. So I think a hammer is the easiest tool that you can think of. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I've been following the AI governance, and quite a few of them have talked about, guardrails and compared it to a hammer. I almost think that I, at some point, sent this to some people because there's like an image around on LinkedIn where they're like, yeah, it's like this, it's a hammer and some like AI thing. I'll have to find it. But anyway, okay, well, we could say a car as well, but I think that complicates it. A car is only as good as the person driving it. Maybe I'll start a new analogy.
But that gets into more, which Griffin here, good buddy of mine who's been on the show before, is it good or bad? Which we just talked about, it's just told, but what about the bias of AI and LLMs and what you build into it? So just as much, it's only as good as the driver. So let's look at our ChatGPT prompts and things like that, and the stuff you put into it. Also, the development behind it on the back end.
Well, I think if it's okay, I'll just say that the bias of AI and LLMs are not new. They're just being exacerbated by these systems. The biases that we're learning about, and kudos, because so many people don't even know about these related to AI LLMs. They predate. I mean, they're just not new. The AI and LLMs process on a basic level. They process the data, or they evaluate the data they're trained on. The data is what is biased. And so the people who are collecting the data, whether it's medical healthcare data or financial data, they are not doing it in a fair and unbiased way. And so that's where the problem exists. And so even if you never touch an AI or LLM, or even don't even get me started with agentic AI, that data, even if you use it to make your own decision making as a human, you read the data, let's say you read data and you make a decision, whether you're a doctor or a financial planner or a lawyer, you could still have that bias in your head because you assume the data is fair.
And the question can also be biased, by the way. So that can can go left and right. So if your question has a hint of biasness into it, that's where the LLM is going to lean into, because that's the way it was asked. And I've seen about a week ago, I've seen an article about how ChatGPT is very biased towards one specific thing. So I went in and I checked it, and I tried to prompt it to be biased. But when I checked it myself, it wasn't biased in that matter, despite what the article said. So there's a lot of things we can read, and a lot of things that people are saying that they've tried. But when I go and prompt it myself, and I try to be as balanced as I could with my questions, and then I kind of try to slate my questions into another kind of directions, it just wasn't biased. So sometimes I think it also depends on how the people approach the question of a certain issue to see if it's biased or not. And of course, ChatGPT or Gemini or any other LLM is not biased. It's just the data, like you said. There's a lot of data, and it processes that data. And if that data is slanted somewhere, that's how it's going to act.
Well, what I have found with that, and with ChatGPT myself, and if I'm doing something like look up an answer to a question or a topic or whatever the case may be, I've not used Gemini for this reason, or even like Apple AI, which partner with ChatGPT. But or with OpenAI, if I put a prompt into ChatGPT, and I did it yesterday, where I was looking up something for a buddy for, hey, give me a spreadsheet on Professional Disc Golf Association of X, Y, and Z. ChatGPT, every prompt I've ever given it that requires research, has given me its sources, where it pulled that information from. So at least in that aspect, you can go validate, which is what I would expect a human to do, is validate the information they're being given. And so I think other places, and there are other AI-based agents or whatever you want to call it, that do not show where they're pulling the information from. So it'll spit out an answer, but not tell you how it got that answer. That's not always the case. I'm sure more do than don't. But because of that, ChatGPT is very good about pinpointing how it got the answer it got, which it allows the human to say, is this a valid answer, and or correct it in certain regards.
To be clear, when I talk about bias in AI, I'm giving it more of an example. Like, let's just say, and this is not true, but like, this would be an example. We take all the resumes of everyone hired in cybersecurity, which is a male-dominated career field. So the writing style and certain other characteristics about the male resumes, well, let's just say that's 75. Let's say it's like 75% of people in cyber are men. Let's just round up, right? And so 25 are, I'm going to say identify as women. Don't make this a political thing. We're going to say 75% are men, 25% are women. That right there, if you then are applying for a job and you have the AI scanning and reading your resume, if you're a woman, it's automatically kind of like less likely to think you're a good fit because of, like, for example, different writing styles or different opportunities that women have been in. So even if you're qualified, your resume all of a sudden is more likely to get rejected. And so when we talk about bias, that's the kind of bias that I am talking about.
Yeah.
And that is, again, pre-existing, because we already know that that's been an issue. We know prior to anyone even talking about AI, 10 years ago, people were saying if you have the same resume with a man's name or a woman's name, it's more likely the male will get the job. Again, no AI had to be included in that. So I just wanted to clarify when we talk about bias, what I'm talking about.
Yep. And I 100% agree. And by the way, it's funny you said that, because a couple of days ago, one of my LinkedIn connections posted that she asked one of the LLMs, I don't remember which one, to create a photo of herself based on what it knew. And she's a woman, of course, and it created a man, just because she's, again, like you said, in the cybersecurity field, because exactly like you said, it's a male-dominated area. So because she is a cybersecurity professional, networking professional, one of the LLMs immediately thought she was a man.
So I do know that from some of the AI history specific to facial recognition, when they first got this to maybe start somewhat working, I think around the 80s or 90s, the one way that AI facial recognition could determine, maybe in the early 2000s, I think this also happened. The way they determined woman versus man is if your ears were showing. So if your ears were showing, you were most likely a man. As my ears now are not showing, and you have
to the point, Ryan.
so that's literally how they got the code. I mean, that sounds so basic, and literally that's what it is. So when they were doing facial recognition, like if you're a woman and you don't want to get caught, I guess just like have your ears out
in a ponytail or
a
beret or something.
Which we know there are women that have buzz cuts too, and then we know there's men that have long hair. So obviously, again, that just goes to the flaws of AI, but that kind of shows some of the inherent bias that whoever was coding it that's how they could define the difference.
Well, and that's the big thing that I think people need to understand, and that I think people forget, is that when people think AI, and we're going to get to, there's actually two comments here I want to get to, View for Justice and MD. But when we think about AI and how it's programmed, what people always forget it gets its biases from the programmer, from the person that put the language in there on how to determine certain things. Keep in mind, we have the original AI wasn't true AI. It was if then else statements. Yep. If this, then do that, else do this, that, the other. And so that it wasn't AI, it was if then else. But because of that got baked into almost brought into what is now becoming AI. So those still exist. Those biases are still there of if you see this, then it's that.
Yeah.
And again, I think to your point, Ryan, yes, do we have more women in this industry now than maybe back in the 90s and 80s when things like this first started coming about? Absolutely. But because of that programming, because of what was deemed masculine and feminine at that time, what was deemed to be normal, that's where a lot of this bias is coming from. So you're not wrong.
I know
just
I'm not wrong.
For clarification purposes,
thank you for
there is reasoning behind it. All right.
And by the way, when it comes to HR, I think HR AI today is a foe, because the way it's set up, it will probably eliminate a lot of good candidates because of certain biases that the program put in, or whomever set it up. And by the way, I've seen a lot of companies that portion of their system was set up in really wrong ways and missing out on a ton of qualified candidates. So right now, at today's, how it works today, that AI component in HR systems that deals with recruiting is, my opinion, is a foe.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that we really, unless you know someone in the company, for the record, my role was cut, so I am in the job market. But yeah.
So hire Ryan is what we're saying. You want to hire Ryan.
You want a problem solver. Yeah. Thanks, Derek. Yeah. So I do think that's a good point that like, yeah, I think potentially the AI LLM systems that are kind of trying to drive efficiency maybe in time to recruiters are actually going to hurt them because it's going to be that much harder to find a candidate. But and like the other bias that I see that's also I'm really weary of because they're putting the LLMs and AI and even agentic AI into like healthcare without really ensuring that it's, I think, efficient in this way. And it's making like, it could be making life or death decisions. And also they haven't figured out like, I just heard another panel last week or something. I probably could have been on the panel, but that's a different conversation. They're trying to figure out, okay, like let's just say you have, and follow me on this. Let's say you have a doctor, woman or man, doesn't matter in this case. You have a doctor and you're the patient and the doctor wants to do X procedure for, let's say, something surgical. Now, if they start implementing, and they want to, these LLMs to really drive diagnostic and procedure like instructions, some sort of AI based on some large set of data might say that this other procedure is better. And now as a patient that probably doesn't have a lot of medical experience or education, first of all, how do you decide to trust? I mean, but this is not a whole new problem. We know we all want to be WebMD people. We know sometimes people have gotten it right at WebMD. Most of the times we don't because we'll have the flu and WebMD says we're dying. And so thankfully the doctor is able to figure it out. But, the problem now is, let's say you have a procedure, either one, and it goes wrong. Can you hold the hospital responsible for potential malpractice because of the LLM? So I think the risk is so great right now of things going wrong. And again, the fact that we're putting these into these systems without having like a qualified process and policy, and even the regulation, I think, is not sure what to do. And we're really trying to make sure we define, the lawyers are trying to define what AI ethics is. And I don't think we have that yet. And yet the technology is obviously moving forward. So I guess in a way, Derek, we probably could go back and forth with all these sort of situations. I know you wanted to get to some of those comments, but I really hope people understand like where the AI is. Because I know we're all cybersecurity people, and I think we're thinking it from that lens. But when we think of it of like the world we live in, totally different world.
That's 100%, yeah. And just an anecdote. A couple of weeks ago, I texted my doctor through a special app they have, and all of a sudden there's a new comment that says some of the answers you're going to get are generated by AI, and they could be wrong. And I'm like, what?
So we're turning we're turning our apps now into WebMD. So we might as well just go back onto Google and be like, these are my symptoms, where everything that you put in there is going to say you are dying of cancer at this point.
You're dying of cancer.
You're all going to die.
You didn't hear the WebMD one, right? That's all me, right? The WebMD, that's my analogy. So if you use that, you have to reference. I was in an AI training and they were actually, I think it was that panel I was listening to. And I remember just thinking like, they're talking about it like it's a brand new problem. I'm like, wait a minute. Us non-medical human beings have been trying to self-diagnose ourselves at least since WebMD came out. Like, this is not new, and we should know. Like, there was one time I read on WebMD, and I was for certain that I had the stomach virus or something, because that's what I thought I had. And next thing I know, my appendix is getting taken out because that was a whole different issue, right? So again, I know myself well enough to know that the most medical data training, for the most part, that I know is going to be based off Grey's Anatomy.
That's the most horrible show. That's the most horrible show. Everybody dies in the show. How is this hospital so cursed that everything happens in that hospital? I swear, the next season, aliens are going to kidnap everyone. They ran out of storylines. How can they run out of storylines at this point? It's been 21 years. Everybody
That's why
died.
I'm glad House ended when it did. All right, House was already at the point of coming out with the most obscure diseases that man could solve. Until finally it was like, all right, we need to end this.
The next season of Grey's Anatomy will probably have exactly what we're talking about. The AI will tell it to do this. They're going to have a patient come in with ChatGPT. Let's call Ellen Pompeo.
Right. There's a person called MD on commenting on YouTube. It asked me if I'm working in my garage. And no, it's actually my basement, and it's an unfinished basement. I live in a rental. And what you're actually guys seeing in the back, the lights, I'm growing tomatoes in my basement. So
tomatoes. Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's a side thing, you know, I'm doing. Not everybody needs to just work on cybersecurity and AI all day.
Tomatoes.
It's my stress relief.
All
what
the
can I do?
All right. I would love to comment on View for Justice. I've been
let me bring that up.
Okay.
So I think the term is wrong. There is just intelligence. We are trying to create ourselves without organic matter. It's only artificial because we have not succeeded in making it like or better than us yet.
So there's a few things I'd love to touch on. So first of all, I'm not sure what term we're referencing, but I'm just going to clear the air. There's a big difference about what data versus intelligence is. So data is just like data. It's numbers. It could be logs. For SOC analysts, it could be, IOCs related to malware from like a DFIR standpoint. That is just the data. It becomes intelligence when you actually apply analysis to it. And so if you're able to take certain behavior you're witnessing in logs and compare it to, let's say, research based on known APTs, like that's when it becomes intelligence. Especially if then you can say, hey, I believe that this threat actor is going to attack us in this way, or be more predictive. Similar to military operations, if you can say, hey, based on these signals we're hearing, seeing, et cetera, we believe, whether it be Al-Qaeda or ISIS or some other terrorist or, military, let's say, might attack us. That is when intelligence, and there's a saying that, like, if you get the intelligence right and then you can prevent said attack, like, you're basically wrong because the thing didn't happen. Or if you don't get the intelligence analysis right and the thing happens, like, you're wrong again. So it's like a very tough job to be in. On a side note, coming from 5 years of military cyber threat intelligence and then continuing that throughout my consulting career. So that said, that's mostly that's like the human intelligence and analysis. And we're trying, I think there are definitely some LLMs. So artificial intelligence is supposed to be like human intelligence, but just faster or better. So like one of the best things I've heard is, what could take me in my life 10,000 hours to read or study, if I give an LLM all this information, it should be able to do it that much quicker. So it's not right now that it's supposed to be smarter than people. That type of AI is not expected to come, I've read, to maybe the 2060s. They expect at this rate it might come sooner, but like, just to be clear, we don't have that yet. Okay. So and then the other part I wanted to touch on, with it being organic matter, we're trying to create ourselves without organic matter. I'm not entirely sure I understand what that means, to be
basically honest. All right, so I do know what he's talking about.
Oh, okay.
And Ron, let me answer. I'm gonna give my 2 cents real quick, and then I want you to touch on this. And we're also gonna touch on MD. But it's basically I'd love to say, have you seen it, Ryan? I know you haven't seen anything. So if anybody out there has seen the show Upload, or anything that basically takes human consciousness and uploads it into some type of digital manner, that is what they're trying to do, is take the human brain, the human element, and replicate it into robotics or digital. Basically, you live forever type of deal. Maybe that is the premise behind that.
Okay, maybe I'm like unpopular in this, but like, I do not want that to happen. That's so creepy to me. Like, I'm freaked out already that, like, with facial recognition technologies that you probably don't even realize all the police departments and all these governments are using. Like, if Derek, if you took a picture, and even if you didn't know me, and someone, like, I was in the back, like, let's say you're at Disney World and I'm somehow in the back, and you get my face in your picture and you upload it to PhotoBucket, to Flickr, to even Amazon Photos, maybe. You don't know that they're not selling a copy of all the pictures that you're paying them to store for you to these companies to compare. And now, as a person, I don't even know what photos are out there of me. and what's being used. And then, you know, facial recognition, which, by the way, back on that, is less accurate for women and minorities, minority men as well. You know, then like there have been cases where it's been said, like, do not use facial recognition alone to make an arrest. Basically, if you believe someone's like robbed a store or done something, it's supposed to be a tool to like start to help you. So like maybe you identify 5 people that might look like the suspect, and then you can figure out, like, do they live in the area? Like, do they have a criminal history? And then use more details to try to investigate with the human mind. But a few times people have been arrested purely because their face came back as the facial recognition saying, I think this is the person.
Yeah. I've seen that happen.
Yeah, pretty bad.
Yeah. So Ron, touch on this. Thoughts, feelings?
I think Ryan is 100% right about the intelligence part. It's not the LLMs today and all the AI. It's not part of replacing us as thinking humans intelligence. It's more of, I need to read like these 50 books now to understand something, and this AI module can do it in like 3 minutes. So I'm going to use that instead of spending 3 months and reading those 5 or 50 or 100 books that I need to read to be able to get like these 5 points I wanted. So that's what it is. So right now, and the upload thing, by the way, it's a great show. Pretty scary if it actually comes into fruition that you can save your entire essence on a hard drive. And I don't know if we're ever going to get there, right? But it is an interesting concept.
So a realistic way they're doing that right now is, I think, Bruce Willis has agreed that. So apparently Bruce Willis, I think, has appeared in like 2 or 3 movies where they've used AI almost entirely because of his condition. He's not able to act. Yet he keeps popping up in new movies. Whereas I think I just read that like Robert Downey Jr., he says if any company uses him and like basically recreates him digitally, like he will sue you for plagiarism. So I think it's really interesting that like this is, I mean, yeah, like it's kind of wild. It's like, where does it end? So, you know.
And there is a newscaster now in a certain place in the world that actually he has ALS, so he's 100% being replaced with his approval, of course, by AI. So he's just gonna be in the background typing, and his avatar is gonna talk on national TV.
See, I find that interesting. And first, thank you, MD, for becoming a new member. But I find that interesting because there was actually another show that has that same concept of avatar, and it was a singing show where these people would create these avatars of themselves. They would be behind the scenes in the almost like a green screen type outfit, and they would be singing and doing everything behind the scenes while their avatar did it on stage.
So what's real anymore? You won't be able to know what's actually real.
The thing about this was you knew it was an avatar, 1, because it was the name of the show, and 2, because they would have these weird characters. Like it was literally like alien looking or animals or whatever. So a similar concept to Masked Singer, only digital avatars with real people singing in the back versus what they had. But neither here nor there. The point is that like these avatars exist. Like these things are really coming to fruition where you can, if you cannot function, you can build a computer basis of you to continue to function in your stead. And now we're not at the point of replacing the human brain of being able to say, okay, we're just going to put like, kind of like on The Simpsons or something like that, right? A head in a jar or Futurama, like that can just put a head in a jar and is going to continue to function. But if you have something like ALS or MS or you know, any of these other things that keep you limited, the ability to still act, still do what you love through computer imagery and CGI and avatars is coming, and it is a thing that's there.
Well, it actually is here because they're using it to completely copy and mimic company C-suite executives, and then just make a ridiculous call like, "Hey, wire $50,000 or $1 million to this account,"
and it's available. The thing is, it's available for $10 a month.
Yeah,
this technology today, it's available for everyone to use.
Yep.
One dark thing with these kind of image AIs is psyops, right? So you can actually produce someone that is maybe Donald Trump or Biden or whoever political or not political character, and make him do stuff that looks exactly real. And today, you don't really have to have a proof except that video, and then you can run it, and then people are going to say, oh my God, this and that happened, and half of the people are going to believe it because they saw it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm looking at a slide from something I attended earlier this week. And so, yeah, exploiting retrieval bias for misinformation could be political news manipulation, malicious prompt injection to exfiltrate data, could be like HR chatbot leaks. And then there's also like poison knowledge base corrupting AI decisions. So it could be like AI powered medical assistance. So just and on that note, I saw that I think you pulled it up for a quick second, Derek, right? And so from a cybersecurity standpoint, I have to be totally honest. I'm shocked. Like I just continue to be more shocked that I'm not hearing more. Everyone's still like barely scratching the surface about what an AI large language model is. And yet I believe IBM said that 2025 is the year of agentic AI. Now, I think Derek, I called you like a week ago joking, is it agenic or agentic? Everyone's saying a hard T. So I'm just gonna go with it. So agentic AI or the AI agents, right? And so they're popping up everywhere. I've gone to a few demos about AI observability and like trying to ensure that the way you're training these and you're putting them into your environment, they're working the way you want to. And then I'm really trying to like figure out what we're doing to secure them. And so from a security standpoint, I think right now they are the foe because companies kind of just like moving to cloud. They are doing these digital transformations. They're investing all this money. And actually, I'm gonna call out another person who said this so well. I'm at this summit I went to last week. Cybersecurity is often the last to know about these changes within their enterprise, but they're the first to like get. They're one of the first to then be pushed out. Essentially, when something doesn't go as planned, and there could be a cybersecurity issue. And I think right now, something I continue to really want to advocate for is that there are just so many people in cybersecurity that don't even know about like the basics of AI from a security standpoint. And that goes all the way up to certain CISOs. I mean, I know there are CISOs that are just talking about what they're seeing, but they are not sure what up or down is. And yet they're still responsible for the secure adoption of AI and the responsible use of it. And again, who's leading this charge and how can people learn? I mean, it's kind of wild, like to me, how much it is of the wild, wild West.
So Ron, I want to get your take on this because Polar Knights has been putting a bunch of comments in here, and I appreciate you, Polar. You're on Twitch, so not a lot of people are seeing it, but I'm gonna pull one of these comments up. But it reminds me of I know Ryan hasn't seen it. Ron, have you seen Free Guy yet?
Of course.
Oh, I saw Free Guy. The movie.
Oh my goodness, you saw it.
Right. I would be surprised, right, if you didn't see Free Guy. Come on.
Ryan hasn't seen Hackers, so no, I would not be surprised.
And I haven't seen Terminator.
Ryan was like, "What's Skynet?" And I was like, "Oh
like,
my
is that Star Trek? Is that Star Trek or Star Wars?" Oops.
So, but I do want Polar Knights. I do appreciate all your comments. Be aware, being on Twitch, it's harder for the entire group to see you. But I wanted to pull this up. Rapid acceleration promises to soon result in artificial general intelligence. When that happens, AI will be able to improve itself with no human intervention. And I believe this already has been started happening in a closed setting. So this reminds me of Free Guy because at the moment those break, the AI in the game starts learning on its own. No human interaction, no nothing. It takes that initial breakthrough for that to happen. Do we feel that this is starting to happen? And Ron, I'll let you go first.
I've seen the articles, same as everyone, that says that it's already started happening. To say that I believe those articles would be a stretch. I've seen like, oh my God, this has happened. OpenAI had to shut down one of their servers to prevent it from going forward. And I'm like, there was no source. There was someone just printing it out.
Probably another chatbot doing it.
I don't think we're there yet. I think it will happen. I just don't think we're really at that point in time. I don't think it's going to happen this year, next year, or the year after that. Will it happen? I think so. It might happen. I'm not sure when. Is it happening now? Is it starting to happen? I don't think so. Everybody that still uses those any kind of LLM today can definitely see that they're not even even close of being there at this point.
So I just want to add to that that if it is happening, it's happening on something so like minuscule that it's not even sustainable, I think, for more than 30 seconds. And something someone said to me recently, more so about tooling, not specific to AI, but tooling, is sometimes you hear about these amazing products in cybersecurity that can either enhance your email security or your identity access management, blah, blah, blah. And they do amazing in the control environment. But then you go put them into an actual environment with actual data and actual functionality, blah, blah, blah. And they don't really do as well. And so I think it's important to keep in mind that a lot of the science and innovation around AI are in these like hyper perfect conditions. But as of right now, I mean, again, AI cannot, I have this, I'm not anti-AI by any means, but I am frustrated that so many people are just jumping onto what I think is an AI bandwagon, because I think what people really want, especially in business, these stakeholders are making these decisions. They just want more efficiency and more bang for their buck. And so if they think that they can get like way more work done, because we all know no matter where you're at, there's going to be a backlog. None of us have enough time in the day. And then the problem is because they think AI is the magical solution, they're cutting people. So now you're actually adding more to the backlog. You need so many people to get an AI LLM running well. So you need the people who are like the subject matter experts. So if it's a medical one or an HR one or a financial one or a legal one, et cetera, you're going to need people who can validate the data, right? We already talked about data bias. Well, then, LLMs, the more data you give them, the more training they require. And the biggest thing we're realizing right now, which I think goes to Polar Knight's comment about the no human interaction, is that we're realizing that, okay, if I asked Ron or the cyber warrior a question, as a human, they are going to give me like their answer. But the way and the algorithms that some of these AI work, it's not as basic, or it's not as simple, because they are not like people who have been growing up in this world that have some of these, like, let's say, common sense and some basic understandings of how the world works. And so AI kind of comes up with this whole thing that makes no sense to a human. And, in some ways, I guess, yeah, AI can maybe improve itself because of memory. So just like any other system in a way, it realizes maybe I got it wrong before, and you're able to at least tell it that. And so then it's like, okay, no, not this. But you have to be so specific. AI really, I think, lacks context. And so that is why AI is not really able to improve itself to what we would call successful. It can just kind of make its own changes based on, well, at least right now, some sort of validation input. But then I think the one thing, though, that Polar Knights you might be thinking about, and I haven't tapped into this, but I think it's true, is apparently like if you get like an AI chatbot to make a reservation, it realizes it's talking to another AI chatbot. Have you guys seen where it starts talking?
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about that, and then it starts beep 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 beep.
That is something totally wild. I don't know what that is. That actually
I've read about it. I actually read about it, and they were programmed to do it. It's not like you take two different AIs and then you let them talk together. This is a setup. This is what I call we all call it clickbait.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, look at this. The robots are taking over the world. But in this specific instance, those two LLM modules were trained to do that. The exact thing that they did, they were trained to do it. It's not like all the AI modules out there are going to do it. It was specifically meant for this kind of video.
What are you talking about? Skynet's out there. It's going to take over the world.
I just want to know, like, does anyone, like, what if they start talking to themselves and we don't know what they're saying? Like, is there a emergency translate mechanism? That.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, so it's called the universal translator. If you saw Star Trek, you would recognize it.
Right, like, so the beeps and clicks are binary code. So you got to translate the beeps into binary, and then the binary gets translated into ASCII, and then ASCII gets translated into whatever language you want. That's how it would have to go.
But when I learned that, they didn't have beats associated. It was just like binary to ASCII, like binary, hexadecimal, all that fun jazz in a math,
It kind of sounded like old school modem.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is what they sound like. Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, but old school modem was just making sounds. It wasn't really. Yeah, it wasn't saying anything.
Well, so here's the thing, right? And Polar Nights is bringing up a lot of topics that I think, from an extreme point of view, we all think about, or at least I do, when it comes to AI. And that is, but you guys touched on it, right? AI right now, at what it can and can't do, is meant to make the human workforce more efficient. And it's meant to make our jobs easier, so that things that we can only accomplish in, say, a month, we can now accomplish in a week, or whatever the case may be. Um, but this super intelligent AI, saying it will be able to run circles around programmers. I got to be honest. I literally put in the chat GPT yesterday, give me a Python script that can do X, Y, and Z. And the scripted output, at its core, maybe, but the functions and everything were all wrong, because the site I was trying to pull from didn't have an API key or an API code or even an API site. So there was nothing for it to pull. So now I got to go through and recode the entire thing. So to sit there and say, that these are getting there, maybe, I don't know, maybe there's a different LLM or a different, chat GPT-esque bot that I can use to create a script. But I'm not seeing anything right now be able, to me, it's the equivalent of, why can't I think of it? Syncali, the place you pulled out exploits from, and I can't remember the name of it.
GitHub?
Exploit DB.
Oh,
To me, it's the equivalent of exploit DB.
You said pull. We both said Git.
Where you need to validate the code that somebody didn't put an actual exploit for your system in that code. So even though you may be doing something to a different system, it's still backdooring to them, to that specific person. There's still an exploit in it. So I think about it the same way. You still have to validate all that code, which means anything you develop right now in AI, you still have to validate. You still need a person behind the screen that knows what the hell they're looking at and what they're trying to accomplish.
It's exactly that. I've seen a bunch of articles, which I validated, by the way, myself, about a bunch of lawyers that pulled up cases that never existed.
I heard about that.
Right, and it happened a couple of times, and then the judge was really, he wasn't having any of it, because ChatGPT would not tell you, I don't know that information. It's just going to invent something, right? And I've done the Python to the Python thing as well. I've generated a couple of pages of code, and then I had to manually go through it and validate it, because first of all, it was Python, a different version of Python, and then the call was wrong, and then certain aspects of the code was wrong. So it did 70%, 75% of it, but I had to go and fix it and validate it actually works to make it work. And let's be honest, Python is not that hard. If AI, LLM, ChatGPT today is very intelligent, it should have gotten it right the first time.
Yeah, I agree. But I this brings me into a bigger problem and a bigger conundrum I have. As we talk about, AI can be a tool, and this is where we get into the friend or foe conversation again. What about these organizations that think AI can replace their workforce? So even though we know, as people who look into this, right? I had a guest on last week from the compliance aid that says, hey, my tool is meant to make your team more efficient, make them better and do things quicker. And I asked him the same question I'm gonna ask you. What about these organizations that go out there, just like they buy tools, buy security tools, make the blinky lights blink, and they think they don't need a security team trained up to know how to run them. They buy AI, fire their security team or their IT staff or their HR team, buy this AI tool. What is your opinion on these companies and these organizations that kind of think they can buy something to replace the human element?
Let me tell you this. If you try to pull out any GRC document from any LLM, you're going to get 10% something usable and 90% garbage.
Yeah.
It's going to be garbage. As a cybersecurity, I deal with compliance all day long and night long. I've said, you know what, there's this wonderful thing out. Let's test it out. Give me a policy about ABC. And oh my God, it will definitely not replace anyone. It could probably replace somebody that's 6 months veteran in cybersecurity with a security plus, and that's about it. That's the level of the writing of the policy that it gave.
But that's partially my
there.
fear, right? It's hard right now for juniors, people that are just trying to break into this industry without AI, right? Without these tools to replace them to even break in.
Six months won't write policies. This is something for somebody that's more experienced in the field. But what it's pulling out, it's not usable. It's not good. There's dedicated platforms, LLMs for coding. I haven't checked them. I know they exist.
There's a pen test GPT or pen GPT. There's one that'll actually develop exploits for you.
And I actually know that one. And it's all great. It's there, but it's not there yet. Right. And I'm thinking everybody, all these companies that fired 10,000 people because they said, oh, we got this new LLM. It's going to do wonderful things for us. It's going to write us code in 6 months to a year and a year and a half. I'll bet all of you guys now, $10 that they're going to hire a lot of these people back because they're going to find out, oh, wait, there's a bunch of errors in the code that this LLM didn't find out. They're going to need to have humans going over it again. It could, you won't hire 10,000 people back. You can hire 7,000 people back because that language module or that specific AI that was written to write code would affect the workforce, but it's not in the levels that they're letting off people today. For instance, ask AI to do some marketing things. It doesn't know anything about marketing. Yeah, it will tell you this is the color palette, this is the design, but it's not good.
But again, this goes back to the AI training because in the way I look at it, so I went through some marketing classes and they explained to me the difference in colors and why certain logos have certain colors and the reasons why and all this other stuff. But none of those marketing people helped develop the LLM. None of these marketing people put the data into it. So how is this? How is an AI bot going to be able to discern what is good for marketing for a particular brand or organization or anything like that?
Well, I think hold on, back up.
Just a small comment, a little comment. The entire thing about colors and shapes that you put them, it's how you makes you feel, right? It's the entire thing. How does it make me feel? Do I happy? Am I sad? Am I hungry? Because I'm seeing it. I don't know if we can program that feeling into an AI LLM module.
Yeah, Ryan.
Go ahead, Ryan.
I was gonna say, I think though, my outlook, and this actually talks to maybe Polar Knight's few comments about discernment he put, knowing when to pull back from the edge, and then he also just put we should not open Pandora's box anymore. I think that so there was I think it was Adam Grant's Originals or Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers. I'm not gonna lie, I get those books confused. They were so similar. I think it was Adam Grant though, and he talked about how companies, there were certain companies like, for example, Apple. If you have a problem with an Apple device, if you call up, that you can go to the Genius Bar and talk to a person, or apparently if you call up, you're more likely to get a person on the line. Whereas another company, I forget if it was Best Buy or whatnot, you'd have to talk to a representative before you could even get to the Geek Squad, I believe. Don't quote me if that was the one. But nowadays, if you call up, for help on something and it's oh, please tell me what you're calling about, that robotic whatever, which soon to be now be agentic AI, right? If it isn't ready.
I hate that. I despise it. Those companies can burn in hell.
Have you ever called your health insurance provider? Don't ever call them. It's a circle in hell.
So there is a side note. If anyone knows anyone in Southwest, because I've traveled with them for my dog, you can't add your dog to your travel reservation online, and they always say you have to call up. But if you get the robotic dude, whatever, and it's like, tell me what you're calling about. I have tried dog travel. I have tried add pet to reservation. I have tried to say it in Spanish, I think, at some point. It doesn't know that. It wasn't trained on that terminology, which is like, are you stupid? So I have to yell at the thing, representative or reservation change or something. And I'm then I'm just mad. I'm like, why? Like, just why couldn't you make an efficient system? Right. And so what I'm trying to say is I think, it's not about overuse of AI. I think it's too late on that note. But I think that companies need to figure out, what kind of experience they want to give their customers, their patients, their employees. Unfortunately, I don't think we've come up with a framework to essentially identify the proper KPIs of evaluating, like, is this efficient and is it actually adding value? Or, because the thing about cybersecurity, we've always said, is like, the more secure you are, there's a chance the more inconvenient.
Oh yeah. Well, again, and we all know that the most secure computer in the world is turned off, unplugged, 6 feet underground in a lead and concrete bunker. Like,
so I think the point I'm trying to make is like, but is it going to become that way with AI? Are we going to realize that, in order to gain all the reward of certain efficiency, unfortunately we need to potentially go a similar route of training it, and more importantly, we haven't really dug into securing it, which right now, again, the security within of AI, if it's on-prem, if it's in the cloud, who has access to it, what kind of data, classifications, are we mixing and matching different data classifications within the same LLM? And is that, that's obviously, there's compliance issues, there's identity access management issues. Like, you think about any domain in cybersecurity, and I'm telling you that it just got put on steroids for the issue it's going to bring up when you put the AI LLMs in your environment. So,
well, look at it this way, right? So even EDR. So Mike DeGlesh, a good buddy of mine, put up earlier today about, even EDR, and we look at things like CrowdStrike, Defender, SentinelOne, all these, they proclaim AI, and we can catch all these things in your environment.
They just slapped AI on it and kept it the same way. This is just AI now. It's just used as a marketing tool.
Well, and that's always my question when I look at things. It's bugging me. When I look at things that say AI, is it true AI? Right now, there's behavioral analytics, there's machine learning, but is it AI? Is it actual artificial intelligence that it can say, hey, if I see these things going on, actually, this looks bad. Like, when it comes to computer security, cybersecurity, I always wonder, is it truly AI or is it just...
Personally, I think it is not. I think it's just a fancy word for machine learning. And like I said, it's like zero trust in the good old days, right? And again, we do zero trust. Okay, great. Another marketing word for cybersecurity. AI became the same thing, marketing word for cybersecurity. Now everything, it takes years to develop AI module, years. How all of a sudden, all these companies had it in like 2 months?
I got slapped on everything.
They either have it or they're still blocking it. Today I saw it's like you either, have it free reign, and so it's not compliant, it's not controlled or maintained. You have it completely listed, or excuse me, blocked. I should say block listed. And then you have now a shadow AI IT problem, or you're trying to put it within your systems, and you're probably in that process, but or has it really been an efficiency driver? Probably too soon.
And that's just like, people talk about AI, but to your point, you're looking at, and actually Griffin said it here, it's just automation. So like, you look at like your SOAR tools, it's just automated response. It's an if then else. If you see this, then do that. It's not, hey, I learned this is bad. It's, hey, I know because somebody told me already that if you see this type of action, it's bad. So it's bad. It's not AI. It's just...
If it was AI, there were never false positives.
Exactly.
Or very rarely, like really rarely false
positives. It would be less likely to have a false positive than we have now. A lot of tools right now, you either get false positives or false negatives. False negatives are the worst, let's be fair. False positives become noise. But you see both. Correlation. Precisely, Nat. What do you think a sim is supposed to do?
Yeah, no, a lot of people I think are assuming that anything that essentially has code and can go through an algorithm.
Correlate data.
Yeah, pretty much is AI. I think we've talked about that. How like for example, you could put data into a calculator and it's going to run through some of the hardest, where it would take you and I some paper and chalkboard or whatever. A calculator can do that. That's not AI. That's like a basic code script. Yeah, a lot of people are getting way too carried away.
Because if AI, if EDR and things like that were truly built with AI, you would not have to implement SHA-256 hashes and IOCs into your EDR. It would immediately know if this action occurred, this is bad. If this file got, because the AI would be able to pull that down automatically. It wouldn't have to go to Windows or Microsoft and say, "Hey, I need to download all these signatures." It would just know, right? It would learn that PS exec, PowerShell scripts. If somebody runs calculator, that calc command automatically runs PowerShell, and PowerShell runs all these, or I'm doing process injection. If it knew it was bad, then it would know it was bad. It would already understand that. But to the point, it becomes correlation. But it only knows the correlation because of what you've told it, which means it is not learning. You have to tell it that this is bad. It's not AI at that point. You have to tell it it's bad for it to think it's bad. It's not learning on its own, which to me, in my eyes, is AI.
It's just a fancy if this then that statement.
Yeah. Fine. The album cover was a robot demon machine. Luke, look, man, I love you, buddy, but I want to see that album cover, by the way, Luke. You need to send it to me. But yeah, that's my take on like the EDRs that claim AI and stuff. To me, it's all marketing terms. It's all buzzwords. It's all this other stuff. Since Polar Nights is on Twitch, not YouTube. If you have a job for someone or a brain like me, let me know. Ryan, yes, we know. You need hired. I'm trying, Ryan. I'm trying.
Well, no, there is something to be said where I haven't. So, on a side note, Derek, as you know, and Ron, maybe as you've picked up, like I have been doing a lot of just personal research, time, training to understand everything from what adversarial AI and AI red teaming is and should be to what AI governance is and why the way that we approach these, from a security standpoint, we're approaching these is so different from like what I would even call traditional cybersecurity. At the same time, in my last few roles, I haven't felt challenged. I haven't had to do anything around this. And I think there's a real issue right now where, like, speaking of the job market, I either see jobs that want you to do 101 cyber hygiene, nothing to do with AI, which I think is like a little alarming that they're not even, and not from
thinking about it. They're not even thinking about it.
They're almost like avoiding it. And then you have jobs that want someone with like 5 to 10 years of AI pen testing.
Yeah, because it was available 10 years ago.
Well, and it was. I know Derek and I talked about this last time we spoke. A lot of people think that AI is like 5 years old and artificial intelligence.
Oh, no, like, I mean, like the AI part of pen testing.
Oh, yeah. Nope. I've been like jumping in hard to understand the ebbs, the flows, the ups, the downs, like, and just, I guess, to start tying it back to like, where we're at, AI friend or foe, on one end, I think that if you are avoiding AI, like it will become your biggest foe because it's going to be, especially for a cybersecurity professional, it's going to be like cloud security, gone are the days of a company just on-prem, and legacy IT has become the enemy. And so, in a similar way, I think AI is this new frontier and you need to understand the security requirements of it. And even if right now as an industry, we haven't necessarily defined those, I think we're just really starting to. You should be trying to follow along and not wait for your job to like provide formalized training. And so I think that's unfortunate is why people think is going to be the foe, is because they think it's going to replace them. It's not going to replace you directly. It's just people potentially like me who are, and you, Ron, right? And Derek, who are even starting to like pay attention and do all that we can to understand and enable our own learning within this new, environment. We will be hopefully getting the jobs that help, when businesses really figure out the right mix of, how to put where to put an AI LLM, how to secure it, where do you put agents? How do you prevent against the adversarial agents and ways that threat actors are using AI, right? Like this is a whole new frontier, or it seems new. It really actually, like, we're already a few years into this. Like this is here. It's just going to get worse. It's kind of like ransomware. Every year people say ransomware is getting worse. I think that's like the majority of the last decade. So it's not new. It's just, we're not better at it, I think, is the truth of the matter.
And you're completely right, Ryan. There's an arm race in AI right now, and people are just not catching up. Like it's moving, like every 2 weeks, there's a new module, there's an updated module. And Ryan is exactly right, because a lot of companies don't keep up with that at all. And it's just getting away from them. And a lot of companies are really far behind on this.
Well, I've actually been reading too that like in like the science and innovation of AI, they're making actually a ton of progress, and it doesn't even make the news anymore because it's like happening so fast. So like even if your company started considering putting in some sort of AI LLM a year ago, depending on what they were doing and what they're looking at, if they haven't stayed up to date, they're already putting in something that's old.
So all right, I don't necessarily want to cut you off, but we are at the top of the hour, so I want to make this point real quick. And ask this question to both of you. Do you feel that AI and LLMs are moving quicker than what was it? Newton's law or whatever it was, where the CPUs, computers,
double time
doubled every so many years.
Yeah.
Do you feel that AI is moving quicker than even technology at this point?
So I will just say that it's not just that AI is moving quicker to what I was actually just saying. So like, for example, the pandemic forced everybody to either jump into cloud and learn about cloud. And in a way that was kind of did everybody a favor. I don't know what it's going to take, but like, as far as I'm concerned, or I'm aware, 90% of people in cybersecurity have barely even scratched the surface on what security and AI looks like. And so, from a security standpoint, AI is moving too fast for some people to catch up. But then in general, because AI is its own thing, it is not a security thing. It is a technology thing. AI, I think when you say, is it moving fast? It's definitely innovative and it's moving fast. But I also feel like that's just the world we live in. So again, when you put it into the perspective, I just said that AI was created since the 50s and they've already had their ebbs and flows. I think it's moving fast. It's in a really good, hyper, like innovative way. I believe an AI winter #2 is coming. And if you don't know that, it was like we had a similar jolt with AI right before the 80s. And then it's like not everybody, but a lot of people were really putting a lot of funding into it and jumping into it. And they weren't getting the return of investment that they expected soon enough, because even though the AI had started to move somewhat faster in the 70s, it didn't move fast enough. And so then all of a sudden it's like the funding kind of crashed and they had like a lull period. It's called the AI winter in the 80s. And I'm a believer that unfortunately, because of almost how reckless people are going into jumping in AI, we're going to have that again. And then true AI will continue, but it will slow down. Because everyone's going to realize it's not what we thought it is.
And it's Moore's Law. I did put that up. Griffin let me know it's Moore's Law. I always forget what it's called. Every time I try to bring it up, I always forget that it's Moore's Law. But yes, it's Moore's Law. Like CPU speeds double every year or every 2 years, whatever it is.
Yeah. I think we're in a constraint sprint right now, right? Like there's new versions of all of these AI coming out every 2 weeks. All of a sudden, you can do a bunch of what's it called? What came out last week with ChatGPT that you can animate yourself.
Images. Oh, the imaging,
the
imaging thing. Like everybody's doing it. I did I tried it on my LinkedIn page. I did myself like a couple of those, and it only came last week. And next week they're going to have probably another release of something else. And they have like 6 different modules now. ChatGPT. That this one is for programming. This one is for deep thinking. This one is for
so it's funny that you talk about imaging though, because Midjourney was the first image AI generator that I came across. And Midjourney bakes into Discord, and it has all these ways that you can give it prompts and do all this, and there's guides out there for you. So to me, when it comes to this image generation, ChatGPT's behind because Midjourney will do it. And even Apple AI, which uses OpenAI, so Apple has their own image generation now, which never, it's like, give it a picture to feed off of. And I look at it and I go, I'm deleting this because it never looks like me. Never. Like, not even in the smallest bit. I'm like, you're garbage. So yeah, like when it comes to image generation, I think some do it better than others. I'm sorry. As of right now, with the exception of something, an article Ryan sent me earlier today, where if you give it 3 different pictures, ChatGPT can create a professional photo for you. Like I use ChatGPT to create like AI, it's AI visualizations. But apparently it can do a lot better than that now.
Well, that's been around though. That's been around for a few years. I've had people use that for their photos.
But it's just like a race, right? This week, ChatGPT is ahead. Next week, Midjourney. The next week after that, it's going to be Gemini. The week after that, it's going to be Cloud. The week after that, it's going to be DeepSeek. God forbid somebody uses that.
So can somebody explain to me real quick before we end the show? Are these different? So Gemini, DeepSeek, ChatGPT, we can even throw Midjourney in there. Any of these, are those considered LLMs, or are they considered AI with a different LLM behind it? Because AI and LLM are 2 different things. So is ChatGPT its own LLM, or
yes?
Okay.
ChatGPT its own LLM, but also DeepSeek its own LLM,
right?
Which they say they copied from ChatGPT because the Chinese stole the code, right? That's why it only took them like $10 million. I don't know if it's true or not. Again, nobody knows.
That's what it is. So Gemini, ChatGPT, DeepSeek.
Is Bart around anymore, or did they get nixed by Gemini? I haven't heard.
I think it got nixed by Gemini.
I was thinking about that today. I said, "What happened to Bart?" Sorry,
it went away.
It just went away. Yeah, when no one was looking. Yeah, that's what I thought. I was like Gemini. I was like, "What happened to Bart?" Okay, yeah. So these are LLMs that are pulling mainly a lot of information from the internet, and that's not to be confused with the LLMs that some, if you put in an LLM in your organization, it does not have to be publicly accessible or facing. And you could just put like research papers or x-rays and research, et cetera, that then help like medical diagnostics, or you can put your own patient or customer data. And essentially the AI that you're talking about, I think, Derek, is really the training within the LLM. So the LLM is just what kind of holds the data set. It's the large language model. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again, the big value kind of pulling it together we talked about before with correlation data is that AI LLMs, though, can take unstructured data. That is why they are different than how SIMs correlate and other systems that we've primarily probably used within our lives, because those are just correlation on structured data. And now, as more and more data becomes unstructured, and we want to either, whether for marketing or fun or whatever, or even analysis like facial recognition, that is unstructured data.
Right.
The world is predicting to have more unstructured data.
Well, it does. It does.
Yeah.
So basically, what you're telling me, right? AI at its core just does what it does, and most of these Google, Apple, OpenAI, China, and DeepSeek, whatever, AI is AI, but it's the LLM that they're putting behind it, which is what's holding that name.
No, I think you have it backwards. I think it's the AI of the way of how they've trained it and the guardrails that they've put in place, whether it like Copilot versus DeepSeek, right? And then
how did we forget about Copilot?
I know, I was like something missing. I just remember that.
I'm not touching it, because if my company, if the company I work for sees, or our partners see, I can't talk bad about other companies right now.
We're not talking bad about it. I'm just saying it's an option. Okay. So so just to be clear, so Copilot versus DeepSeek versus ChatGPT versus Gemini, they are all, I don't remember the exact data sets, but they can all pull somewhat from the internet. You can upload things to them. They're almost all like different versions of a search engine in that way. And they're all competing to essentially be like the new Google. I don't know if that helps.
Right.
Like so Google pulls off the internet, just like Bing, just like, I don't know what happened.
So again, this is why my question comes down to, would Gemini, DeepSeek, ChatGPT, Copilot, would they be considered LLMs, or should we just call them chat whatever, or chatbot, or whatever you want to call them.
No, they're not chatbots. That's something
not chatbots.
totally
No,
different.
Well, I know they're not
else.
chatbots. I know that because we're not actually talking to them. But you get my point. Like, would you give them a different terminology versus LLM, or are they large language models?
They are large language models.
That was my question.
Okay, yeah.
And the AI is the part that they put on them to put the guardrails and train them. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah. So there's no actual defined name for the AI. The defined name is the LLM. The AI engine or whatever.
AI is the science. Think of it as AI is the science. And so if it's like the SIM ingests the logs, that's like the LLM. Security operations is just all of it. The people, the process,
right,
the endpoints and the SIMs and the data and all that. So like AI is the specific like study of how you would even set up an LLM, how you would train the LLM, what the guardrails are. It's similar to like cloud, right? Cloud is either going to be, let's say for all intents and purposes, in AWS or Azure. That's where you're going to put your application and your data. But cloud security is like the big picture.
right.
Why are you saying
I
right?
get it. I just wanted no, I understand. I'm just saying. It is because we always say like OpenAI and ChatGPT or Gemini without understanding, is Gemini the AI or is Gemini the LLM behind it? Like that name, is it getting that name from the actual AI, the guardrails, the infrastructure, or is it getting it from the LLM?
Buckle up, low. So let's start talking about deep learning and really throw Derek for us.
Fuck no. It is 8:11. I gotta end
when you're talking when you're
No.
talking about these kind of commercialized okay, I think the best way to put it, when you're talking about commercialized ones, the one we know that you need to pay money or not pay money, some of them I guess, the LLM is the same. You can call it the same way as the AI portion of it. So they're just call it Gemini. But you can have your own in your office. You can have an LLM that's called something else. And if you want to give it a different marketing name, you can give it. This is my cyber warrior. Right. Gemini, not Gemini. Cyber warrior AI. Cyber warrior AI. And that would be it. Right, so you can do that, but we're talking about marketing terms and we're talking about the names they gave them. But all of these big ones, they have their own LLM, and it's the same thing as their AI because it's the same company. But you can have if you have one in your office, you're installing one in your office, and you can call it whatever you want.
That's what I was trying to get out of that. Was are they different or are they the same?
No, I asked AI for you, and I'm just going to put it in the chat if you want. It's AI, just to be clear, refers to the ability of machines or software to perform tasks that typically require human intelligence. So it's like the broad term, and then LLMs are like the more tactical system. But again, it's just software and data.
It's like having I got it. It's like having a database. SQL.
Yeah.
SQL.
So
SQL.
I think I've said this to you before on the show, right, Derek? That to me is very funny because now everyone talking about prompt engineering, prompt injections. And I keep saying, what's the difference between SQL injections? Like, I kind of just feel like, the new OWASP, like for LLMs, top 10.
It's really what it should be is OWASP top 10 now with prompt injection.
They have you have to catch up. This is a real thing. I didn't make that up.
Oh, is it? I missed that one. I'm still caught up on the top 10 being SQL injections and cross-site scripting and cross-site request forgery. Hold up, am I behind?
You are so behind. Hold on, and just in case anyone else is, and I love your. I'm putting that in the chat. So it's not going through. It says comment failed to post. That's annoying. So OWASP has a top 10. It's not posting for large language models. That's already this is something they've already done.
Damn, I really need to get caught up on that. OWASP keeps emailing me about the top 10 for website shit.
Happy
website shit. That's so 1995.
All right. Well,
look, I love y'all, and I do want to continue the conversation. However, we are well over time. So before I go, Ron and Ryan, and we'll let Ryan go first, then Ron. Final words, help people get into AI, cybersecurity, whatever you got. Give some advice to the people out there.
All right. Well, first of all, I'm going to say I don't know why my comments are not going through the public. So I'm going to ask that either Ron or Derek share the OWASP top 10 for LLM applications 2025. So that's a good start for anyone who wants to continue learning in that way. If you want to learn about AI, it's, it sounds kind of scary, especially if you're a cybersecurity professional who's been doing this for a while. You kind of got to start off or start over and just start somewhere. I can't tell you what'll be most useful for you because in a way there's already so much clearly that is happening. And so I'm always happy to connect if you want to meet with me on LinkedIn, and I can share a few things that I've learned. I've done a few crash courses with some people. Understanding the terminology is definitely key so that you can understand the difference between what AI is, what LLM is. And if I'm being honest, we barely got into it. And it's like my new favorite thing is really diving into what agentic AI is. And so those are going to be like your new modern chatbots. And I'll be honest, I can't imagine what the next 5 years of our lives look like. You want to go to the bank or you want to go to the doctor. These are there. But as a cybersecurity professional, you should know that cyber's in all these systems already. So we've been there before. We're doing it again. This is where we need to be. I believe the sooner you can accept that it's coming and just start, the better. And at some point, it's just all going to make sense. So I'm Ryan. If you really don't know where to start, I'm super happy. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Tell Derek to bring me back. He knows where to find me. He does actually invite me back. I'm sorry, guys. Sometimes this is a really hard time. But, if the people want me, obviously, I'll come. And anyways, really nice meeting you, Ron. So, yeah, I'll pass to you.
Ryan. Yeah, so I would say just all the information, a lot of this information is out there. Nobody's hiding it. It's out there. So Google, your best friend as always would be Google. People on LinkedIn, Ryan, which I met today, and she's amazing and awesome. And I'm glad that I met you today. But the information is out, and the time to start is yesterday, not today, because this is going so fast. This is going so fast that you're going to have a lot of learning to do if you don't start now. So start yesterday, start now. And you don't need to. Nobody needs to go and start like learning about this 8 hours a day. You can do micro learning sessions, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 25 minutes on topics that you like, and get that. To get that learning going. It's new. It's not gonna go away anytime soon. It's here to stay, and we better know how to protect ourselves. We better know how to act when we have questions. People have questions, or companies come to us with questions as cybersecurity professionals. We need to answer those questions, because if we don't have them, that's not going to be good. Not for you, not for the business you're working in, and your career in general. So it's all out there. It's really nice to meet you, Ryan, and thank you, David, for having me.
So it's been an amazing episode. Like Ron said and Ryan said, start now, start learning and growing within the industry, whether it's cybersecurity and AI or just AI. It is what it is. But either way, I will touch on something Ron said, and this goes through your entire life, no matter what you want to do. The best time to start something was yesterday. The next best time is today. So if you want to go out there, if you want to learn, if you want to grow, if you want to be better, start now. Because yesterday's gone. So just get started immediately. Go out there, learn, grow, and be a better person and do great things. Now, with that being said, I love you all. You're all my warriors. You're all my family. Thanks for tuning in this week. And next week, we got another big episode. So I'll see you all then.